Hello and welcome to It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. This is a podcast for business leaders and business owners just like you. We're going to be sharing top tips on how to develop yourself personally and professionally. I'm going to be sharing updated podcasts on a regular basis, so please do make sure you subscribe, and I really hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today's podcast is all about community for business leaders like you. It's really important part of what we do, and often overlooked. I think the value of having a community and being part of a community is overlooked. After all, someone wise once said that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, when you reflect on that, who are the 5 people that you do spend the most time with? And are they pushing you and challenging you and enabling you to become the very best that you can be? Or potentially they holding you back? Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and scrap your friendship group. What I am saying is it's important to make sure that you have a really close community of business people that you can rely on, that you can trust, that you can seek guidance from. And today I'm going to give you 5 key reasons why that's absolutely vital. The first reason is it stops you from leading in a vacuum. Interestingly, just last night before I recorded this podcast, I was chatting to a good friend of mine, Mark, who's previously been on the podcast actually. And Mark and I were chatting about Kind Souls, which is a new clothing brand that started locally around supporting people with mental health. And it's got some amazing messaging on the clothing around mental health. And we were both admiring it. We were talking about obviously our trip to go and watch Man United this weekend, and it came up that I said that, you know, it was interesting that this product had launched. We're both interested in retail. We're interested in clothing. Obviously, Mark works in shop lighting. So we're having a discussion, and he was saying about the brand. There's a new brand. Some of you will have heard of it, may or may not have heard of it, called Boys Get Sad Too. And you might have seen people wearing hoodies and T-shirts with the brand saying "Boys Get Sad Too." And Mark had recently bought one of the hoodies, which he says is very good quality. And interestingly, our messages got crossed because I said I wasn't a fan. I messaged saying I wasn't a fan of that brand. And the reason that I wasn't a fan of that brand is that I felt prior to speaking to him, I felt that the use of the word boys made it childlike, the messaging around boys get sad too. I was frustrated when I saw the brand and I thought, well, why can't it be called men get sad too? Because it feels like it's demeaning that only boys get sad and men don't get sad was kind of the viewpoint that I'd had on it. And this is the key first lesson around not leading, making sure we don't lead in a vacuum, because that was my perspective. I'd come to that conclusion based on my own biases and thought process. I said to Mark, I don't know why it can't be men get sad too or lads get sad too. And he said, well, his perspective was that maybe boys was around using the term boys softens the messaging, whereas with men it's a man it's like a harder messaging. So it's a subtlety within the naming of the brand, and I'd not really recognised that. And he said, anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's just important that we get behind it, right? Because it's got an important message. And that made me reflect that potentially I was wrong, right? I'm happy to admit that I was wrong. So maybe we're both right. Maybe we're both wrong. Maybe whatever it may be. But that conversation changed my viewpoint. So I was no longer leading in a vacuum. I was having that conversation with Mark, and it did change my point of view that whilst I felt quite strongly about that brand, actually it did align with my values, which is that it's important that we discuss and share and support and show unity around men's mental health. And therefore it is a valuable brand. And actually, I'm happy to have that conversation with the founders, with whoever, that I just felt that the boys' messaging wasn't quite on point. But that's just my opinion. Actually, the values of what the business stands for is more important. So that first lesson is really, really important. If I hadn't have had that conversation with Mark, I would have not expanded my view of that business. Does that make sense? So The first reason for community is that it's really important that him and I had that conversation. It changed my point of view, and therefore I'm not leading in a vacuum. And that same principle can be applied to your business. It can be applied to the work you're doing and you as a leader, that you have a certain perspective. And actually, by having a good community around you, it broadens your perspective. The second one is around it accelerates growth. Okay. So having a community accelerates growth. And what I mean by that is it's about having like a slipstream. If you imagine being a runner or a cyclist in a pack of for a race, and what happens is when you're in a pack, if you slipstream, someone else is doing a lot of work and you can just sort of follow up behind them. Now, by having a community, you're able to get insights into what other people are doing. Hi, my name's Pete, and I want to thank you for tuning into today's podcast. I'm a coach, speaker, and author. And if you want to take your personal development that bit further, did you know that I offer a mastermind program as well as one-to-one coaching? If you're interested, please do reach out on peterushmer.com. That's going to give you ideas, and it's going to make things a lot easier for you because you broaden your horizons. So I think accelerating growth is a second one. And I think that's really an important part of realizing that other people have great ideas, and sometimes we can reapply those ourselves and we can slipstream in them. Maybe they're using a fantastic supplier that we'd not thought about. Maybe they were getting a fantastic deal on something that we're paying loads of money for. And actually we can slipstream behind, we can pick up on what they're doing, and we can start to share that energy with them, because that's what business is. It's about energy. The third thing is around it keeping us accountable. So having a community of people where we share the things we're doing, there's this element of being able to tell ourselves stories and let ourselves get away without doing things. And I think it's really important that we make sure that we're held accountable to the things we say we're going to do. So a good example of that is recently, obviously I launched the in-person mastermind for It's Not So Lonely at the Top. And I'd mentioned that I was going to do an online core group where we were running it just online. It was going to be a lower value proposition where it's much more accessible for smaller businesses, and geographically it's much more accessible for people who aren't so local to where I host the mastermind at the moment. And I'd just put it on the back burner for a period of time because it wasn't a focus at that time. I didn't have the capacity to deal with it or the bandwidth. But the benefit of it is that it will keep getting brought up. I'll keep getting asked about it. And that's part of the accountability. Someone's going to go, Pete, have you done that yet? When are you going to be doing it? And as a leader, I think that's really important because we hold our team accountable, but who's holding you accountable as the leader? And having that group, having that community that I'm a part of really holds me accountable. And as an example, that online mastermind, I put it on the back burner for a couple of weeks and someone's already chasing me down on it. And it's good to have that level of accountability. So that's my third reason for trying to focus on being part of a big community. The fourth one is around it building resilience. So what I mean by that, so building resilience as a business leader is that it gives us an opportunity to unload on people and to realize that other people are facing the same challenges that we are. And it's very interesting that I might be in consultancy and training. Mark, who I mentioned before, might be in retail lighting, shop lighting. You might have a business owner who runs a transport company, another one who runs an electrician's. And all of a sudden, what we realize is some of our challenges are universal around operating profit, around finding sales, around people issues and challenges, absences, sickness, those kinds of things. So by being part of a community, it builds resilience, that we realize that our challenges aren't so unique and aren't so unusual. And that when we do face those challenges, we have someone that we can unload on, because a problem shared is a problem halved. If we just absorb all of those challenges and we feel like we're just on our own facing the world alone, then one, it feels lonely, and two, it will reduce our resilience, which makes us less strong to be able to deal with some of the bigger challenges that we may face. So I think it's really, really important. That fourth one is around building that resilience and making sure we, that we know exactly where to go and who to speak to get the support we need. The fifth area is around expanding our influence. So by having a strong community around us, we can we can build our influence and build our impact. I'm going through a process at the moment where I'm buying a new vehicle and I want to sell the vehicle I've got. And I'm very fortunate because within my community is someone who sells vehicles for a living, right? So I was able to chat to them, get tips, and in fact, they're going to help me sell it. And actually, by going through that process of selling my vehicle with them is going to be much more valuable to me than doing it on my own. So that's about expanding influence. So through that community, we build a network of other people who we can rely on and support, we can get advice from, but also it expands the influence where if someone comes to them with a challenge, they're more likely to refer that back to you because you're the person that can solve it. So influence is essentially, you know, almost the potential is astronomical based on the opportunity of your community and the people that you're around. So Rob Moore, who I listen to on the Disruptors podcast, he says your network is your net worth, and I very much agree with that. So, you know, if we bear in mind that we're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with, I'm not telling you to divorce your husband or leave your girlfriend or whatever that may be. It's important that we keep our friends and our family close to us. But what's important is that we start to build a community of business owners and a community of people, business owners, leaders who face similar challenges to the ones we do, so we can share that experience so that we're not lonely, so that we do have those five key areas that are absolutely vital to us to help support us. So just as a reminder, the 5 areas: it keeps us from leading in a vacuum. It accelerates growth as the second one. The third is around it keeps us accountable. The fourth is it builds resilience. And the fifth is expanding our influence as well. So all very good reasons. So one for you to reflect on: how are you expanding your community? How are you nurturing the community of people around you? And where are you going to get support? Thanks for listening. Speak to you soon. Thank you for joining us on today's It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. We really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I'm absolutely delighted that you took the time to listen, and I really hope that you'll subscribe to ensure that you receive future episodes too. If you want to find out any more, please do search It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast, and you'll find it on your favourite podcast app. Thank you.